guys, welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It is our Missing Person Monday episode today, and I have 5 cases to bring to you, and they are all suspected of foul play. And I believe in at least 2 of them there were suspects, but as far as I can remember, none of them were ever charged or convicted for these suspected homicides. So let me get my slides up and going, and we will get started. All right, like I said, suspected foul play. Nothing has ever been, or nobody has ever been convicted or arrested for any of these that I can recall. Could be wrong. My memory's not so good these days. But we will take a look at them, and all this information comes from the Charley Project. So I will put a link to the Charley Project website in the description box as always. So our first missing person suspected foul play is Amelia Martinez Smith. Miss Smith went missing on February 3rd of 2000 from Weatherford, Texas. This was classified as endangered missing. She was 51 years old at the time that she went missing, so today she would be 75. She had been diagnosed with non-contagious tuberculosis. She had brown hair, brown eyes. She wore glasses. Her ears were pierced, and her nickname was Amy. And Miss Smith was employed at a taxi company in Irving, Texas in 2000. She was last seen departing from the business after her shift ended at around 10 p.m. on February 3rd. Authorities believe that she drove to her trailer in Weatherford, Texas alone. Smith's husband was visiting his mother at the time, so he wasn't home, and their children were not at the residence either. So she would have been going home to an empty house. Neighbors reported that her trailer was on fire at approximately 4 a.m. the following morning. By the time authorities got to the residence, it was fully engulfed in flames. They discovered that someone also attempted to set fire to the interior of her vehicle. So her vehicle was there. So we know that she did make it home. Now, what happened after that, of course, we do not know. It says that she resided alone at the time, and authorities were unable to discover evidence suggesting that she was the victim of a fire. So, obviously, after they put the fire out, the investigators come in and they sift through what's left, and usually, you can find the bones if anybody was in the fire. You can find the bones most of the time, unless it is an extremely hot fire. She was never heard from again. Investigators do believe that the arsonist was responsible for the fire at her residence, obviously. An extensive search of the surrounding areas produced no clue as to her whereabouts. So they searched all the property around her house. She was not found. None of her remains were found. So she disappeared, or was obviously not at the house at the time. So this was just such a horrible case, as they always are. So there is a suspect in this case. Jeffrey Allen Maxwell was considered a possible suspect in Miss Smith's disappearance. In March of 2011, he was charged with kidnapping and essaying a 62-year-old woman. The woman went missing after her house burned down, so there's a similarity. And she was found alive 13 days later in a secret compartment in Jeffrey Allen Maxwell's house. She'd been bound, assaulted, and tortured. But she did survive. Authorities haven't found any evidence that he knew Miss Smith, but her disappearance obviously was similar to this 2011 kidnapping of this 62-year-old lady. He has long been, and on top of that, he has long been a suspect in the 1992 disappearance of his wife, Martha, who was never found. Now, unknown if he had a residence that burned down at the time that his wife disappeared. Couldn't find that information was not included in this information from the Charley Project. So, yeah, I would, in my opinion, this Jeffrey Allen Maxwell would be the prime suspect in the disappearance of Miss Smith. So Miss Smith's husband said that she was deeper, can't talk today. Got to use my words. She was a deeply religious person. She was a responsible person who would not have abandoned her children. Obviously, foul play is suspected in the case and it remains unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Miss Smith's disappearance, you can contact the Parker County Sheriff's Office at 817-594-8845. And also, if you have any information in the disappearance of Jeffrey Maxwell's wife, you can also probably contact the Parker County Sheriff's Office, and they can direct you to, because it's unsure if this Mr. Maxwell lived in the same area, but if not, the Parker County Sheriff's Office could point you in the right direction to who you can talk to if you have any information. All right, next we have Delia Baxter. Miss Baxter went missing on March 17th, 2000 from Melbourne, Florida. Once again, classified endangered missing. She was an Asian female. She was 37 years old at the time that she disappeared. So today she'll be 61. At the time she disappeared, she was 5'6", 120 pounds. And aside from the obvious, the very, very sad part of this is that she was 5 months pregnant at the time of her disappearance. So that just on top of her disappearing, she was pregnant. And so this would basically be a two-person disappearance, her and her unborn child. She had black hair, brown eyes. Her nickname was Dee, and she was of Filipino descent. She, once again, was last seen, just like the case before, she was last seen leaving her workplace. She was seen in the parking lot on March 17th in Melbourne, Florida. She was employed as an assembler for dictaphone at the time. She had 3 other daughters aside from her unborn child. And that she had told her 3 daughters that she planned to come home to Palm Bay, Florida, and bring them pizza for supper. But unfortunately, she never arrived. A co-worker did see Miss Baxter getting into her vehicle, which was a 4-door 1988 Chevrolet Corsica with Florida license plates. And this was around 4:30 p.m. The witness also noticed an SUV in the parking lot at the same time, and this witness said that it followed Miss Baxter's vehicle into traffic as Miss Baxter left the parking lot and drove away. And 4 months later, Miss Baxter's vehicle was found abandoned at an apartment complex in Melbourne, which it says is not far from the Palm Bay city line. So either Miss Baxter did make it most of the way home, because it said she was going home, her home was in Palm Bay, or somebody else, whatever happened to her, she disappeared, and somebody else drove her vehicle and left it abandoned it just says an apartment complex. I don't know if it didn't say whether it was the apartment complex, if she lived in an apartment complex, if it was her apartment complex. that information was not available. So her car was found, but unfortunately she and her unborn child were not found. And this, you see on the left, is a picture of one of her daughters. I believe her name is Michelle. I feel so bad, once again, for her 3 daughters that she left behind, and of course for her and for her unborn child. Obviously, foul play is suspected. It says that it's uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning, and I just don't see her. It didn't say she had any, as far as this information that was included, that she had any problems with her family or friends or a significant other. And I just cannot, in my opinion, cannot see her leaving her 3 daughters behind. I just can't see it. She was born in the Philippines. Her case remains unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Miss Baxter or her disappearance, you can contact the Melbourne Police Department at 321-259-1211. I said this is one of the more, out of the 5, I think this is the one that touched me the most. Leaving behind three little girls, and she was pregnant with an unborn child. So two lives seemingly have been lost, and 3 little girls lost their mom. Just breaks my heart. Okay, next we have Riley Floyd Thomas, and this is another one that also breaks my heart, and just, if my theory is correct, it infuriates me too, but we will get to that. So we have Charley Floyd Thomas. He went missing on January 31st of 2000 from Lufkin, Texas. At the time he disappeared, he was 76 years old, so today he would be 100. At the time he disappeared, he was 6'2", around 265 pounds. The only clothing or jewelry description was a white gold watch and a Mason's ring. He did suffer from congestive heart failure and Parkinson's disease, and he was homebound as a result of his condition. Keep that in mind. He was homebound. Congestive heart failure, he had Parkinson's, and he was homebound. He had gray hair, blue eyes, and he had scars on both of his knees. So, keep in mind what I said about all his illnesses that he had, and he was homebound. So, Riley's son, Mr. Thomas's son, Richard Floyd Thomas, told authorities that he had dropped his father off at a bus station in Lufkin on January 31st of 2000. Mr. Thomas was scheduled to travel to Houston, Texas, and then transfer buses in Port Arthur, Texas. He never arrived as planned, and he was never heard from again. His ex-daughter-in-law, and I'm just assuming that the ex-daughter-in-law was the former wife of Richard Floyd Thomas, who was Mr. Thomas's son, but that's just an assumption. She reported him as a missing person on April 6th of 2000, more than 2 months after he was last seen. Now, it says here he may have traveled to Louisiana or Oklahoma. To me, in my opinion, that is unlikely, but that is just my opinion based on my theory. So Richard Thomas, the son, moved to Oklahoma around the time that his father disappeared. And he was later convicted of forging his father's name to cash checks on his father's bank accounts. And he is considered a suspect in his father's disappearance. Of course, Mr. Thomas is presumed deceased, and foul play is suspected, but his remains or any sign of him, any sightings of him, never found. And he is a retired correctional officer. So if you have any information regarding Mr. Thomas or his disappearance, you can contact the Angelina County Sheriff's Office at 936-634-3331. So, my theory, and this is just my opinion, my theory. So we go back to the fact that Mr. Thomas, and this is a picture of Mr. Thomas. This is not the son. This is just a different picture of Richard Thomas, the gentleman that went missing. So we go back to the fact that he had congestive heart failure, he had Parkinson's disease, and he was homebound. Now, it did not state how far advanced that the Parkinson's disease was. I know that I don't know a whole lot about Parkinson's disease. I do know what it does to the body, and I'm assuming that when in the early stages you can still pretty much function mostly normal. But due to the fact that it said that he was homebound, that would lead me to believe that his Parkinson's had progressed to the point where he had probably lost most of his mobility. Otherwise, unless it was due to the congestive heart failure, that's the only explanation I can come up for him being homebound, was that his Parkinson's had progressed to the point where he could not get out by himself without assistance. So with that being said, we go back to the information that was given that his son said that he had taken his father and dropped him off at a bus station to catch a bus, and he would have to transfer to another bus to get to his final destination. Now, to me, anybody or somebody who had possibly had advanced Parkinson's disease would not be able to do this on his own. Now, if I'm way off base, if anybody knows more about Parkinson's disease than I do, which probably a lot of you out there do, please let me know. And even if he was going on this trip, if this was my father and he was possibly in the advanced stages of Parkinson's disease, I would not put him on a bus by himself. I would be going with him. Now, I did not state why. His son did not state any, according to this information included, did not give a reason why Mr. Thomas was going on this trip, how long he was supposed to be gone. But like I said, if this was one of my parents, my father, and he was in advanced stages of Parkinson's, I would not put him on a bus by himself. I would, if the trip was absolutely necessary, I would be going with him, or I would be driving him to wherever he was going. So to me, this story, hold on, I have a notification bells that were dinging. Anyway, so to me, this story that Riley Thomas, the son, gave does not make any sense to me at all. I think possibly two theories. Once again, just my opinion. Either his father may have, due to his congestive heart failure and or the Parkinson's disease, he may have passed away of natural causes. And he did not say how much money he had in the bank accounts, but his son was convicted of forging his father's signature to take money out of the bank accounts. So possibly if the father could have passed away from natural causes, the son wanted the money. He possibly took the father's body and buried it somewhere, or made up this story that, oh yeah, I put dad on a bus and to somewhere in Texas or wherever it was he was going, and he just disappeared and I haven't seen him again. Second theory is the son possibly did something to harm his father. some kind of disagreement. Like I said, didn't say how much money was in the bank accounts. Maybe the son was greedy, wanted the money, harmed his father, took his body, buried it somewhere where it never would be found, and thought he could get away with forging his father's name on these checks and doing whatever he did with the money. And once again, these are just my theories. I have no proof. I don't know. I wasn't there. But to me, at the very least, the story that the son gave about putting his father on the bus with all his father's medical conditions is, to me, does not make any sense. But that's just my opinion. Once again, please feel free to let me know what you guys think about this. All right, this next one, we actually have 3 missing persons in one case. We have Kimberly Janice Boyd, who was the youngest of the ones who disappeared. She was only 2 years old. And all 3 of these ladies, and also Kimberly Janice Boyd was the daughter, the little girl, 2-year-old. Sarah Boyd is her mother, and Linda McCord was a friend of Sarah. So that's the relationship between these 3, we'll say victims, these 3 missing persons. So Kimberly, like I said, was only 2 years old. Classified as a non-family abduction. They all 3 disappeared on April 3rd of 1987 from Orangeburg County, South Carolina. And there's a blue Lincoln, which is accounted for, which I believe is the car that they were in. They were all African-American females. Like I said, 2 adults, 1 child. Little Kimberly was only 2. Once again, these cases that involve missing children just eat at my heart. So the circumstances of their disappearance. Kimberly, which was the 2-year-old, was last seen with her mother, Sarah, and her mother's friend, Linda. The 3 of them had attended a gospel concert in Waltersboro, South Carolina on the evening of April 3rd, 1987. They were driving through Dorchester County, South Carolina, going back to their homes, which were in Orangeburg County, when they disappeared. Now, there was a witness that saw their blue Lincoln driving between 30 and 45 miles per hour around Route 15. And I think in the next slide, I have a picture that kind of shows the highways and the general area of where this witness saw the car. Now, this witness also said that there was another car behind the blue Lincoln, but the witness was unable to describe the second vehicle or its occupants. So they saw the blue Lincoln, and I'm not sure what drew their attention to it. Possibly the fact that it was only driving 30 to 45 miles per hour. Because even if they were on just a rural 2-lane highway, usually the speed limit is 55. So if they were driving 30 to 45, that might have drawn a little bit of attention from this witness. And maybe the fact that with the car driving well under the speed limit, and that there was another car that was following it also at a slow rate of speed, that would have it would have drawn my attention, especially being after dark. But it could have been, and it's unknown why they were driving so slow. It could have been my guess, because I believe it said in the next slides that the car was found with some kind of something wrong with it. So Sarah's husband, and this is Sarah Boyd, Philip, returned home from work at around midnight. He was initially unconcerned about his wife and daughter's absence because he thought that they were either with other relatives or with Miss McCord, who was with the friend that was with them. But when Sarah and little Kimberly hadn't returned home by 6 a.m. the next day, he notified the police. Okay, so here is the slide that has the general area of where they went missing and where the car was found at. So the vehicle that they were driving that night was located, disabled, and abandoned in Dorchester County near the intersection of Highway 15 and 176. So if you see in the slide, the white area is Dorchester County. And if you kind of see up in the upper, you can see the little symbol for Highway 15. And it doesn't have the 176, the intersection, but up in that general area is where the car was found. And Mr. Linda McCord's husband was the one who found the car. And it says a freeze plug. Now, I know a little bit about cars, but I do not know what a freeze plug is. I know what a spark plug is. I don't want to know what a freeze plug is. So anybody out there watching, please leave a comment about what a freeze plug is. But at any rate, a freeze plug had blown out and the engine had overheated. There was no sign of the three females, little Kimberly, her mother Sarah, or their friend Linda. They were not found at the scene, and they have never been heard from again. So I would go under the assumption that whatever this freeze plug was blew, the engine overheated, they stopped. And this is back, when I say, is it in the 80s or the 2000s? Unknown if they had cell phones with them to be able to call somebody for help. If not, possibly they would have gotten out to walk or to get help. There was not any other mention of this car that this witness has seen that was following them. Possible that, and it doesn't say, giving any indication that the car had been tampered with. It's possible, I suppose, that whatever kind of this plug was could have been tampered with, where when they got in the car and drove for a while, that it would cause it was tampered with in a way that would make it eventually blow out and the engine overheat and they would have to stop. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with whatever this freeze plug is. Possible it was tampered with and that this car that this witness saw was following them, could have tampered, whoever it was in the car could have tampered with it. And when it blew and the car overheated, it could have stopped and said, "Hey, do you need help?" And the women said, "Yes, of course." Possibly got into the car with this person who may have had ill intentions, and they disappeared and were never seen again. Or another theory, the other theory I could think of is that this freeze plug did blow out. Engine overheated, they got out to walk, or somebody came, they were sitting on the side of the road, somebody came by with ill intentions, possibly this car that had been following them, and it just was lucky for this person that was following them, if they had ill intentions, that the car was disabled, blew and overheated, and they stopped, and he was, "Hey, let me give you a ride somewhere," and they were never seen again. But we don't know. We weren't there. That's just any two theories that came to mind when I read this. Once again, if you have any of you guys watching have any thoughts on it, please leave it in the comments. So 3 years, 3 years, 3 years after this disappearance of these three females, Sarah's credit card was used at a local mall in 1990. Police said that the signature was barely legible, but it did not match Sarah's writing. Then, of course, the identity of the credit card user has never been established. Obviously, foul play is suspected in the disappearance of these three, little Kimberly, her mother Sarah, and the friend Linda. So with the credit card being used 3 years later, with a forged signature, that would lead me to believe that I keep going back to this car that this witness saw that was following the car that they were in, the blue Lincoln, leads me to believe or theorize that either the car was tampered with, where this freeze plug would eventually blow and the car would overheat and become disabled, or it was just dumb luck with this person, possibly that was had seen them at some point at this gospel concert they were at, saw an opportunity, started following them, and it was just dumb luck that the car was disabled and they got into the car with this person, and some kind of foul play fell upon them due to this possible offender. Just this sad situation all around. But yeah, to me, the fact that the credit card was used 3 years later, I think lends to the fact, or lends to this possibility of whoever this car was that was following them could have had something to do with their disappearance. But at any rate, if you have any information about this case, you can contact the Dorchester County Sheriff's Office at 843-873-5111. It's just such a sad case. You basically have a family, or a mother, a daughter, and a friend that were seemingly disappeared, and harm befell them. And just feel so sorry for their families, as always. Sorry, I'm getting my mom is out and about, and she has been texting me and advising me of her whereabouts. Anyway, now we come to Trudy Leanne Appleby. Trudy went missing on August 21st of 1996 from Moline, Illinois. This is classified as a non-family abduction and most likely homicide. Trudy was 11 years old at the time of her disappearance. So if she were alive today, she would be 39. At the time she disappeared, she was 4'8" to 5 foot tall. So tiny girl, 75 to 85 pounds. She was last seen a shirt, black stretchy bicycle shorts, white socks, dark blue Nike deck shoes, with white shoelaces. So on the morning that Trudy disappeared, her father had left to go to work, left their residence. She lived with her father. He had left their residence at approximately 9 a.m. To go to work. A neighbor saw Trudy enter a silver or gray 4-door box-style vehicle, which is similar to a Chevrolet Celebrity. And I'm not familiar with what a Chevrolet Celebrity looks like. In the driveway of her home and this was between 9:30 and 10:30, so about an hour to an hour, half hour to an hour after her father left to go to work. This neighbor saw Trudy get into, apparently willingly get into this vehicle, this possible Chevy Celebrity. Now, the driver of this vehicle was described as being a Caucasian in his 20s with curly brown or black hair worn long to his shoulders, and he was also wearing a baseball cap. Neither Trudy nor her suspected abductor have been seen again. The car was never seen, as far as this information. This witness or any other witnesses did not report seeing this car leaving the area. Her father reported her disappearance when he could not find her after he returned home from work. And I don't know, in this information given, it did not give the time that her father came home from work. I would assume if it was a 9-to-5 job, it would probably be around anywhere between 5, 6 o'clock. But that's just a guesstimation on my part. Authorities believe that Trudy may have known the vehicle's driver, and this is due to the fact that the family's residence was located off of the main road and was not visible from the street. So this possibly would have been a rural area. So if it's far enough off the road that you could not, the driveway, the yard, the house could not be seen from the road. It wasn't like Trudy could have been out in the front yard doing whatever, and somebody happened to drive by and say, "Oh, hey, here's a cute little girl. Let me get out and lure, and either snatch her or lure her into the vehicle to take her." So her case was initially investigated as a possible runaway, but investigators now believe that she was abducted. She took a swimsuit and a towel before departing her home. And apparently, and I think it may be in the next slide, so we'll get to that in a minute. So she took the swimsuit, a towel when she left, when she got into the car with this possible abductor. She had left approximately $200 behind, which her father said that she was saving up for an upcoming vacation. So to me, that would indicate to me that if this was a runaway, that she would have taken this money with her. Because if you're going to run away, you're going to need money for food, drink, renting a hotel room, or whatever the case may be. If you had $200, if you're running away, I would take it with me. And I would take something besides just a swimsuit and a towel. If I was running away, I would have a backpack at the very least. So in this case, there are actually three suspects, persons of interest. The first is William Ed Smith. He was identified as the prime suspect in Trudy's disappearance in 2017. Smith, who was known to Trudy because he was a friend of Trudy's father, he passed away in 2014. A witness, and this witness reportedly was his son-in-law, David Whipple. And at the time that Trudy disappeared, this David Whipple lived across the street from Ed Smith in 1996. So keep that in mind. So this David Whipple had allegedly seen Trudy in Ed Smith's car, and allegedly, according to David Whipple, Ed Smith threatened to kill this David Whipple if he told the police about this. And I'm assuming this would be that David Whipple had seen Trudy in Ed Smith's car. So later on that day, Smith was seen alone in the car in question, but Trudy was never seen again. And apparently, Mr. Smith had his car scrapped within a week of Trudy's disappearance. And allegedly, he acted despondent whenever Trudy's name was mentioned. So bunches of red flags there. You have this witness who alleged, this David Whipple, who alleged that he had seen Trudy in Mr. Smith's car earlier in the day. Allegedly, Mr. Smith said that if he said anything to anybody about Trudy being in the car, that he would take him out. He had the car scrapped within a week of Trudy's disappearance, and then his odd behavior whenever her name was mentioned. So that is a lot of red flags flying around there. So Trudy's father does have a theory about what happened to Trudy. Trudy's father's theory is that Ed Smith and David Whipple, and David Whipple is the one on the bottom, Ed Smith is the one on the top, took Trudy out on a boat on the Mississippi River, and then something unexpected happened. Could have been an accident that happened, and Trudy passed away from an accident. Could have been that these two men harmed her in some way. So you're asking, why would Trudy be out on a boat with these two men? Well, apparently Trudy was friends with one of David Whipple's children. Possibly childhood friends, or they went to school together. And it says that Trudy had frequently accompanied their family on this boat. So that is how, because when I read that Trudy's father's theory was that she was out on the boat with these two men, I'm like, why would this young girl be out on this boat with these two older gentlemen? But then I came across this information that Trudy was friends with David Whipple's children, and that she had been on the boat before. And apparently on the day that Trudy disappeared, she had asked her father for permission to go swimming, and he told her no. But teenagers are teenagers, and it's possible that she went anyway, even though she was told no. Because I know when I was a teenager, couple or 3 or 5 times, and I had asked to go somewhere with friends, and my parents told me no, and I went anyway. But that was many, many years ago. I like to think that I am older and wiser now. Definitely older. I don't know if I'm wiser, but anyway. So we have Trudy's father's theory about what happened. Third person of interest is Jameson, we'll call him Jamie Fisher, was named to Trudy's case in 2020. He was a lifelong friend of Ed Smith family, and investigators believe that Fisher and David Whipple were both known to Trudy and or her father, and investigators believe that this Jamie Fisher may have helped cover up whatever happened to Trudy, her disappearance, her possible death. So that is why he was named a person of interest or a suspect in 2020. In May of 2021, Fisher was sentenced to 2 years in prison on an unrelated charge of auto theft, and he is due to be released in 2026. David Whipple, who is a registered offender, refused to cooperate with investigators in Trudy's disappearance. He passed away in August of 2022 at the age of 61. And I believe that Fitch, another one. Sorry, I lost my place. Another one. Both the only of the 3 suspects in this case, only one is still alive. So let me go back and reread. So Jamie Fisher was sentenced to 2 years in prison. It's due to be released in 2023. David Whipple, passed away in August of 2022. And I know I read, and I thought I included it here, that the original Ed Smith has also passed away. Let me reread and find it. So Fisher. Could be wrong. Now I'm confused because let me go back one slide. Nope, that was the okay, maybe I was wrong, but I could have swore that I included that this Jamie Fisher was the only one that was alive. Anyway, police are appealing to anyone who might have seen any suspicious activity in the areas of Campbell's Island, Blackbird Island, Dynamite Island, or the boat launch at Empire Park in East Moline, Illinois on the day that Trudy disappeared. And obviously her case is unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Trudy's disappearance or any information regarding any of the 3 possible suspects or persons of interest, you can contact the Moline Police Department at 309-797-0401. All right, I think that was our last slide. All right, so those were our 5 cases for our Missing Person Monday, suspected foul play. If you found this video informative or interesting, please give it a thumbs up. On small channels like mine, any likes, comments, and shares, helps it, YouTube algorithm pushes it out to more people, and that's the most important thing, is to get this information out about these missing persons and unsolved cases to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. So I appreciate everybody watching, tuning in. If you like what I do here at Southern Gal True Crime, if you have not already, please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell to all so you will receive notifications when I either upload a video or schedule a live stream. I try to do at least 2 videos a week and maybe one live stream every other week. Mondays are Missing Person Monday. Fridays are the case of the week. And sometimes on Wednesdays, if there's any current true crime in the news, I will do a video on that. So until next time, please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Be careful out there. Take care of your fellow human being. That's the most important thing we can do in this life, is take care of each other so we can all make it through this life safely. So once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.